The awakening the Galactic Empire had ruled the galactic arm for 3,000 years without challenge. Their ships moved through space like silver daggers, sleek and deadly, each one a masterpiece of engineering perfection. Their empire stretched across 200 star systems, and every species they encountered had bent the knee within days of first contact. The Valeth believed in order, in the natural hierarchy of the universe, and in their rightful place at its apex. High Commander Thalen Vor stood on the observation deck of the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion, his four eyes scanning the star maps projected before him. His crystalline skin reflected the soft blue light of the displays, casting prismatic patterns across the pristine white walls. Everything about the Valeth was precise, calculated, beautiful in its efficiency. "High Commander?" A junior officer approached with measured steps, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Scout Division reports an anomaly in Sector 793, an unknown vessel approaching from the region designated Sol System." Thalen turned slowly, his expression unreadable. The Sol System. He accessed his memory bank, searching for any record of that particular region. Nothing. An unexplored backwater, barely worth cataloging. Configuration? Unclear, sir. The vessel's energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to be large, but the readings are inconsistent. Our sensors detect multiple conflicting power sources. A flicker of interest crossed Thalen's face. In 3,000 years, the Valeth had encountered 47 spacefaring species. All had used variations of the same fundamental technologies: crystal-based power matrices, graviton manipulation, quantum entanglement drives. The universe, it seemed, had only so many paths to the stars. "Deploy observation drones. I want full tactical analysis within the hour. If this species possesses technology we have not catalogued, the Empire must know." What Thalen did not say, but what every officer on the bridge understood, was the unspoken addendum. And if they possess superior technology, they must be eliminated before they become a threat. 300,000 kilometers away, Commander Elena Vasquez floated in the zero-gravity observation blister of humanity's first true dreadnought. She pressed her hand against the reinforced glass, staring out at the vast emptiness of space. Somewhere out there, in the direction they were heading, lay the heart of galactic civilization. First contact. The moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. The resilience was not beautiful by any conventional measure. Where alien ships were sleek and elegant, she was brutal and functional. Her hull was a patchwork of armor plating, ablative tiles, and exposed framework. She bristled with weapon systems, communication arrays, and sensor packages that jutted out at odd angles. She looked like exactly what she was: a ship built by a species that had clawed its way up from a gravity well through sheer stubborn determination. "Commander, we're picking up something on long-range sensors." The voice crackled through her helmet comm. It was Lieutenant Marcus Chen, her tactical officer and one of the finest military minds Earth had produced. Elena kicked off from the observation port, sailing through the corridor with practiced ease until she reached the bridge. The command center was cramped, filled with screens, switches, and manual controls. Unlike the Valeth ships with their thought-controlled interfaces and holographic displays, the resilience required human hands on every system. "Report," Elena said, sliding into her command chair and strapping herself in. Marcus manipulated his console, bringing up a tactical display. "Multiple contacts, Commander. They're small, fast, and they're circling us like sharks. I'm reading advanced scanning technology. They're taking our measure. Any attempts at communication?" "Negative. Just passive scans so far." Elena felt her jaw tighten. First contact protocols were clear. Humanity was to approach peacefully, extend greetings, offer knowledge and friendship. But those protocols assumed the other side would reciprocate. These probes, whatever they were, felt predatory. "Dr. Okonkwo, anything on the linguistic analysis?" Elena directed her question to the ship's xenolinguist, a brilliant woman who had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. Dr. Amara Okonkwo looked up from her station, frustration evident in her dark eyes. "Nothing, Commander. If they're transmitting, it's on frequencies or in formats we can't decode. I'm trying every mathematical constant, every universal physical principle we can think of as a basis for communication. Either they're not interested in talking, or their method of communication is so alien we can't recognize it. Keep trying. In the meantime, Marcus, what's our defensive posture?" "All systems green. Railguns loaded and tracking targets. Point defense lasers online. Nuclear missiles armed but safed. Honestly, Commander, we're as ready as we're going to be. But we're blind here. We don't know what we're facing. Elena nodded slowly. The Resilience carried the accumulated military knowledge of human history. Weapons concepts that had evolved from rocks and spears to nuclear fire and relativistic projectiles. Every system had been tested, retested, and tested again. But they had no idea what alien weapons could do, what physical principles they might exploit, what technologies they might wield. Steady as she goes. We came here in peace, and that's how we'll proceed until they give us reason to do otherwise. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Thalen studied the data streaming in from the observation drones. What he saw disturbed him in ways he could not fully articulate. The human vessel was chaos given form. Its power systems were a nightmare of competing technologies, fusion reactors, fission cores, something that looked like controlled matter-antimatter annihilation, all running simultaneously. Its weapons were crude kinetic accelerators and primitive, explosive devices that would have been obsolete in Valeth space 10,000 years ago, and yet there was something about the design that unsettled him. It was redundant to an almost paranoid degree. Every critical system had backups. Every backup had backups. The ship looked like it had been designed by a species that assumed everything would break and had planned accordingly. It was inelegant, inefficient, and disturbingly practical. Analysis complete, High Commander, his tactical officer reported. The vessel poses minimal threat. Their weapons technology is primitive. A single precision strike from our disruptor arrays would penetrate their hull and neutralize their power systems. And their defensive capabilities? Negligible. They possess no energy shielding, no gravitic deflection fields. Their armor is simply layered metal, effective perhaps against their own weapons, but trivial against our technology. Thalen considered this. Standard protocol was clear. When encountering a new species, the Empire offered a simple choice: submit to Valeth authority or be eliminated. There was no middle ground. Order could not tolerate chaos, and every independent species was potential chaos. Open a communication channel, all frequencies, all formats. If they have achieved interstellar travel, they will understand mathematical principles. Transmit the standard ultimatum. The message went out, encoded in mathematical relationships, physical constants, and simple geometric patterns. The meaning was universal and unmistakable. You have entered Valeth space. Submit to Imperial authority immediately or be destroyed. You have one of your planetary rotation periods to comply. On the Resilience, alarms began to sound. Commander, we're receiving a transmission. Dr. Okonkwo's voice was excited and terrified in equal measure. It's mathematical in structure. Give me a moment to decode. The bridge fell silent as Amara worked, her fingers flying across her keyboard. Minutes stretched into eternity. Finally, she looked up, her face pale. Commander, it's an ultimatum. They're demanding our immediate surrender. They're giving us 24 hours to comply or they'll destroy us. The bridge erupted in voices. Angry voices, frightened voices, defiant voices. Elena let them talk for exactly 10 seconds before she spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Silence. The bridge fell quiet. Elena unstrapped from her chair and floated to the center of the command deck, slowly rotating so she could meet the eyes of every crew member present. These were the best humanity had to offer. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, diplomats. They had trained for years for this mission. They had left Earth knowing they might never return. They were humanity's hope and humanity's sword. We came here seeking peace, Elena said quietly. We came offering friendship and knowledge. We came as equals ready to take our place among the stars. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we also came prepared. Our ancestors did not crawl out of caves and conquer a world by submitting to every predator that bared its teeth. We are here because 10,000 generations of humans refused to kneel. She looked at Marcus. Tactical status. All weapons hot, Commander. We're ready. Dr. Okonkwo, prepare a response. Tell them this: humanity does not surrender. We seek peace, but we will not purchase it with chains. If they wish to talk, we will talk. If they wish to fight, we will show them what happens when you threaten Earth's children. As Amara composed the message, Elena returned to her command chair. She knew what was coming. The diplomatic part of her mission had just failed. What came next would determine whether humanity had a future among the stars, or whether their first venture into the wider galaxy would be their last. The message transmitted. Across the void, Thalen received it. his four eyes widening slightly as he processed the response. In 3,000 years, no species had ever refused the ultimatum. Not one. High Commander, the aliens have rejected our terms. They claim they will not submit. Thalen felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Surprise. These primitives, with their crude ship and ancient weapons, dared to defy the Galactic Empire. Fascinating, he said softly. Prepare the fleet for combat operations. We will teach these humans the price of defiance, but... He paused, a thought occurring to him. We will not destroy them immediately. I wish to see what these creatures are capable of. Perhaps they will provide entertaining resistance before the inevitable conclusion. He did not know it yet, but Thalen Vor had just made the greatest miscalculation in Valith history. Aboard the Resilience, Elena watched the alien ships begin to move, forming up into an attack pattern. She took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the combat alert switch. All hands, this is the commander. Battle stations, this is not a drill. We are about to engage an unknown hostile force. Remember your training, trust your shipmates, and show these aliens what humanity is made of. She flipped the switch. Throughout the Resilience, klaxons blared. Crew members rushed to their stations. Weapon systems armed. Reactors surged to full power. The patchwork Dreadnought, humanity's first true warship, prepared to write the opening chapter of mankind's military history, and the stars the Galactic Empire stared at the human ship with contempt and confidence. They had no idea what was coming. The reckoning, the Galactic attack, began with precision. That would have been beautiful if it were not so deadly. 6 warships broke formation, accelerating to attack speed in perfect synchronization. Their hulls shimmered with activated energy shields, and their disruptor arrays charged with a distinctive violet glow that had been the last thing 47 species had seen before extinction. High Commander, Thalen watched from the Eternal Dominion's command throne, his posture relaxed and confident. The tactical display showed his ships moving like dancers, each one positioned to create overlapping fields of fire that would leave the human vessel with no escape route. It was textbook Imperial doctrine, tested over 3 millennia of conquest. Disruptor arrays charged to 40%, his weapons officer reported, targeting their primary power generation systems. At this power level, we should disable without destroying. The wreckage may prove useful for study. Proceed, Thalen commanded, curious to see how quickly these humans would realize their mistake. The 6 warships fired simultaneously, beams of coherent disruptor energy, each one capable of tearing through conventional armor like paper, lanced across the void toward the Resilience. On the human Dreadnought's bridge, Marcus Chen's tactical board lit up like a Christmas tree. Incoming fire. Energy weapons, 6 sources, impact in 3 seconds. Elena's hands moved across her console with practiced speed. All power to forward ablative plates. Angle the ship 15 degrees starboard. Present the thickest armor. The Resilience was not elegant, but she could move when she needed to. Maneuvering thrusters fired in a carefully orchestrated sequence, rotating the massive ship with surprising agility. The Galactic disruptor beams struck armor plates that had been designed to withstand the heat of atmospheric re-entry and the radiation of nuclear detonations. The beams carved glowing furrows across the hull, superheating metal and vaporizing outer layers. Alarms shrieked as hull integrity dropped in multiple sections. But the beams did not penetrate. The sheer mass of redundant armor, layer upon layer of different alloys, each chosen for specific thermal and energy absorption properties, held. Damage report, Elena barked. Hull breaches on deck 7 through 9, outer sections only. Compartments auto-sealed. Ablative armor at 63% forward sections. Casualties minimal. 3 injuries from flying debris, none critical. Marcus looked up from his console, a fierce grin on his face. Commander, we took their best shot and we're still here. On the Eternal Dominion, silence fell across the bridge. Thalen stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human ship had not only survived, but appeared largely functional. In 3,000 years of warfare, no species had withstood a concentrated Galactic disruptor barrage with passive armor alone. Increase power to 80%. Thalen ordered, his voice tight. Target the same location. Their armor is damaged. The next salvo will penetrate. High Commander, his science officer interrupted, her voice uncertain. I'm reading unusual energy signatures from the human vessel. Multiple systems are activating. I cannot identify their function. Elena allowed herself exactly 3 seconds to feel relief. Then she switched to the offensive. Marcus firing solutions on all 6 attacking ships. Time to show them what happens when you pick a fight with Earth. Solutions locked, Commander. Railguns 1 through 4 ready. Missile batteries 5 through 8 armed with nuclear-tipped kinetic penetrators. Dr. Okonkwo, transmit this in the clear so they can understand. You shot first. Here's our reply. Marcus, weapons free. The Resilience opened fire with the accumulated fury of human military evolution. 4 railguns, each one a linear accelerator 300 meters long, fired in sequence. Tungsten projectiles the size of telephone poles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, carrying kinetic energy equivalent to small nuclear weapons. There was no warning, no energy buildup to detect, just solid matter moving impossibly fast. The first projectile struck the leading Valeth warship before its sensors could even register the threat. The tungsten rod punched through the energy shield as if it were not there. Shields being designed to deflect energy and charged particles, not solid matter at relativistic velocities. It penetrated the hull, passed through 17 bulkheads, and exited the opposite side, leaving a perfectly cylindrical hole 3 meters wide through the entire ship. The Valeth vessel spun out of control, atmosphere venting, systems failing, crew dead or dying from explosive decompression. The second and third projectiles followed microseconds later, targeting different ships. One missed as its target executed an emergency evasion maneuver. The Valeth captain's combat instinct saving his ship through pure reflex. The third struck another warship in the engine section, and the resulting cascade failure caused the ship's power core to overload in a brilliant flash of annihilation. Before the Valeth could process what had happened, the Resilience's missile batteries fired. 8 nuclear-tipped missiles streaked toward the enemy formation, each one guided by AI systems that had been refined through centuries of human warfare. The missiles did not carry massive warheads. They did not need to. In space, a nuclear explosion was primarily a source of electromagnetic pulse and radiation. The missiles were designed to detonate in proximity, overwhelming sensors and disrupting electronic systems. Evasive maneuvers, Thalen shouted, his composure finally cracking. All ships scatter pattern Delta. Activate electronic countermeasures. The Valeth ships broke formation, their elegant attack pattern dissolving into chaos. Their point defense systems engaged, trying to intercept the incoming missiles. They succeeded in destroying 5 of the 8. The remaining 3 detonated in a pattern that bracketed the Valeth formation, and the electromagnetic pulse washed over the surviving ships like an invisible wave. Systems flickered and failed throughout the Valeth fleet. Energy shields dropped for crucial seconds. Sensor arrays went dark. Communication systems squealed with interference. The Valeth had designed their ships to withstand energy weapons and particle beams, not the crude but effective pulse of nuclear fission. Again, Elena ordered calmly. Railguns, continuous fire. Target the ship that's braking toward our port side. Missiles. Spread pattern. Keep them off balance. The Resilience became a fortress of directed violence. Her railguns fired in a steady rhythm, each shot sending a projectile downrange with devastating effect. Her missile batteries launched in coordinated salvos, creating overlapping zones of nuclear fire that forced the Valeth ships into defensive postures. Thalen watched his tactical display with growing horror. 5 ships remained combat effective out of his initial strike force of 6, and they were not winning. They were barely surviving. The human weapons were primitive, yes, but they were effective in ways the Empire had never considered. Kinetic weapons that bypassed shields, nuclear weapons used not for direct damage but for electronic warfare, armor that absorbed energy through sheer mass rather than elegant force field manipulation. High Commander, we must withdraw, his tactical officer urged. We are losing ships. This engagement is not proceeding according to doctrine. Thalen's 4 eyes fixed on the officer with cold fury. The Valeth Empire does not retreat from primitives. Bring the eternal dominion to bear. We will end this with overwhelming force. The massive Imperial flagship began to accelerate, its main disruptor array, powerful enough to crack a planet's crust, charging to full power. The weapon represented the pinnacle of Valeth technology, a focusing array that could concentrate enough energy to trigger tectonic collapse on a terrestrial world. On the Resilience, alarms reached a new crescendo. Commander, massive energy buildup on the largest ship. It's 10 times the power of anything we've seen so far. If that hits us... Marcus did not need to finish the sentence. Elena studied her tactical display, her mind racing through scenarios. The Resilience had taken damage. Her armor was compromised in multiple sections. Her crew was exhausted, and now they faced a weapon that might be able to destroy them in a single shot. She could run, plot a course back to Sol, use the Resilience's superior acceleration to break contact. They had proven their point. Humanity could fight. They could make the aliens bleed. That might be enough to buy Earth time to prepare, to build more ships, to create a proper defense. But running meant leaving this space to the Veilith. It meant showing weakness, and Elena Vasquez had not come all this way to run at the first sign of a real fight. Engineering, this is the commander. I need everything you've got. Every reactor to maximum output. I don't care if we burn out half our systems. Give me power. From deep in the ship's core, Chief Engineer Dmitry Volkov's voice crackled back. Commander, if we push the reactors past Redline, we might trigger a cascade failure. We could lose containment. Then don't lose containment, Chief. We came out here to make a statement. Let's make sure they hear it loud and clear. Throughout the Resilience, reactors surged past their safety limits. Fusion cores burned hotter than the surface of stars. Fission piles ran critical. The matter-antimatter containment system, humanity's most dangerous and powerful technology, throttled up to maximum output. The entire ship began to glow with waste heat, radiating energy across the electromagnetic spectrum. Marcus, load every remaining railgun. Prepare all missile batteries. When that big ship fires, I want every weapon we have pointed at the same spot. We're going to shoot down their beam. Marcus stared at her. Commander, that's not how physics works. You can't shoot down an energy beam. You can if you put enough mass in front of it. Tungsten rods, nuclear fireballs, every piece of matter we can throw. Their beam has to go through our countermeasures before it reaches us. Load and lock, Lieutenant. That's an order. The Eternal Dominion's main array reached full charge. Thalen gave the command, his voice filled with cold finality. Fire! A beam of pure destruction lanced across space, carrying enough concentrated energy to sterilize a continent. It crossed the distance between the ships in seconds, an unstoppable force that represented 3,000 years of Imperial supremacy. And then it hit the Resilience's countermeasure barrage. Railgun projectiles intersected the beam's path, each one vaporizing instantly but absorbing a fraction of the energy. Nuclear missiles detonated in sequence, creating expanding spheres of superheated plasma that the beam had to burn through. The Resilience dumped coolant, atmosphere, water, anything with mass, creating a debris field between herself and annihilation. The beam weakened, dispersed, diffused. By the time it reached the Resilience's hull, it had lost 70% of its coherence. It still hit like the hammer of an angry god, tearing through armor and burning into the ship's interior. Decks 17 through 23 simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. 73 crew members died before they could even scream. But the Resilience survived, battered, burning, hemorrhaging atmosphere and coolant, but alive. Return fire, Elena said quietly, her face illuminated by damage control displays showing far too many red indicators. All remaining weapons. Target that flagship. Show them the price of threatening Earth. The Resilience, wounded but defiant, fired everything she had left. Railguns, missiles, even the emergency thrusters repurposed as crude rockets. It was not elegant. It was not sophisticated. It was desperate and brutal and absolutely human. The barrage struck the Eternal Dominion across multiple sections. Shields flickered and failed under the kinetic onslaught. Hull breaches appeared across the flagship's pristine surface. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Empire's greatest warship was bleeding. Thalen stared at the damage reports, his worldview crumbling. This was not how the galaxy worked. Primitive species submitted or died. They did not fight back. They did not hurt the Empire. Hi, Commander. His communications officer spoke hesitantly. The humans are transmitting again. What do they say? Thalen asked, his voice hollow. They say we can do this all day. Can you? Thalen looked at his fleet. 6 ships reduced to 3 combat-effective vessels. His flagship damaged. The human ship battered but still fighting, still dangerous. And he realized, with crystalline clarity, that he had made a catastrophic error. He had assumed that primitive meant weak. That crude meant ineffective. That young meant inferior. He had forgotten the first rule of survival that had allowed the Veilith to endure for millennia. Respect every threat, or become extinct. Signal fleet withdrawal, Thalen ordered quietly. Pull back to the defensive perimeter. We will. Observe from distance. As the Valeth ships retreated, Elena Vasquez allowed herself to collapse back into her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew cheered, exhausted and terrified and victorious all at once. Damage report, she said, her voice tired. Marcus consulted his displays. Extensive. We've lost multiple decks. Dozens of systems are offline. Casualty count is still coming in. Commander, we hurt them, but they hurt us worse. If they come back... They won't, Elena interrupted. Not today. We taught them something today, Marcus. We taught them that humanity doesn't break easily. That we're not prey. That if you come at Earth's children, you better be prepared to pay in blood. She looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy that humanity was now part of, whether the other species liked it or not. Send a message to Earth. Tell them first contact was eventful. Tell them we'll need reinforcements. And tell them... She paused, a slight smile crossing her face. Tell them the stars are ours for the taking. We just have to be willing to fight for them. In the days that followed, word of the engagement spread through the Valeth Empire and beyond. A primitive species from an uncharted system had fought the Imperial fleet to a standstill. They had done the impossible. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage not with words of peace, but with thunder and fire and absolute refusal to kneel. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would the Valeth Empire, which learned that day a lesson they should have known from the beginning. Never underestimate a species that clawed its way to the stars through sheer stubborn determination. Humanity had arrived, and they were here to stay.